Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. And my name is Killjoy, and today I want to be talking about the diplomatic and influence part of Civilization 7. Now, this is probably the part of the game that I have the most issue with. Here I've just loaded up a game where there was originally 3 people on this island. Down here I think it was Machiavellian, but as you can see we've also got Benjamin Franklin and Frederick around here. So, this icon up here, this accumulated influence, this is what you use to do a lot of things in the game. So, for example, if there is a city-state, that's what you use to convert them, what you use to incite. If I go to the one here, Tondo, I can use this to spend on various different things. I can incite them, I can levy units, all that sort of stuff. I can incorporate them. But you also use this to do dealings with people, and that's what you see here. Recently ended open markets or military aid or open borders, stuff like that. And you can essentially go to each individual person and use this to say, hey, I want open borders, or hey, I want to reconcile, or I'm going to place sanctions and things upon you. Now, at the moment, I'm finding this system to be very frustrating. I want to break this down into 2 separate things. One is this diplomatic screen with the AI, and then one with human players, because the problem is they work exactly the same, but it sort of doesn't. This system works better with AI, and I feel like as a human player it doesn't work too well. So you can see that there is a list here. We've got treaties, we've got endeavors, we've got sanctions, and we've got espionage, and each of these things has an individual cost. Now, treaties and endeavors, so like if I want to walk through someone else's borders, I say, hey, I want to walk through your borders. They look at it, and then they can decide to say yes, that's fine, or basically say no, I don't want you going through there. And the same with this: to improve trade relations, you can denounce military presence. They all have some kind of effect. They all cost a different amount. As you see, denouncing someone's military presence is hey, don't come near here. It's quite cheap to do, but it will probably upset them because, you know, people don't like being told what to do. Then there's things like endeavors, where here you see, like, you have an open market. So you say, hey, I want open markets with you. I want to improve relations. If you agree, I get money, you get a little bit less money. Or you can choose to support it, so we get the same money, which costs them more influence. So this resource up here to spend. Or they can say no. And by saying no, that also costs influence. And then they can, your overall standing, your relationship here, will reduce because you've turned down something that they want, or they've turned you down, that sort of stuff. And that's kind of how this all works. Now, in theory, this is not a bad system. I think that you can definitely ask for these things and whatnot. Espionage is different. Espionage feels very dumbed down in this game compared to Civ 6. It's basically a case of choose an action to use on someone. It will it's like you can see here, success chance. It'll work, but you'll probably get found out because it's a 50-50, or a military infiltration less so. And all this does is just piss them off. That's it. You can then choose to counter spies to slow down other people's actions. But essentially, these things are going to succeed regardless. You can obviously sanction people, denouncing being one of them, which massively lowers your standing with somebody to put them into, as you can see with me and Frederick, we are in a hostile relation. It's minus 90 here. I'll come to this in a sec. But here is the screen of everything that you can ask. Now, some of this stuff is only askable if you're in a neutral and above sort of thing. Maybe if they're feeling a little bit unfriendly, but usually when they're unfriendly, they're less likely to do stuff. Reconciliation here is the only thing you can do when someone's hostile. If they say yes, it goes up by 30, so you can do that. If they support it, it goes up massively. Great. So this itself isn't terrible. Okay? Now, when it comes to the AI, this is a screen here, and we've got Benjamin Franklin, who is actually considered helpful, or I'm considered helpful to him. I can show the opposite problem. So, first off, minus 60 from the previous age. What does this mean? Well, that's the problem. The game doesn't tell you this. The game doesn't actually explain some of this stuff at all, and this is where my first issue comes in with the AI. There's 2 things here. One is, I need to be able to hover over these, or I need a tooltip to bring up, say, you were at war last era, or this is why it's so low. Borders touching. Okay, that's fine, but who was there first? Shared governments, that's obvious. Sanctioned another civ. Now this is where it gets, this is the things that annoy me the most. What? I sanctioned another civilization that isn't Frederick and maybe Machiavellian, and that's why you're upset? Or I sanctioned you, and that's why you're upset. Or, likely the case, he denounced me, and that's why it's at -60. But sanctioned another civilization, to me that reads as I went after somebody else, he's not happy because I went after another civilization. And that's really frustrating to look at this. If, like, this game is one I've loaded up, I saved it, I've come back to it. I don't remember every little thing that I did. Declared war. Right, okay, was that you or was that me? Captured a settlement, I know that's me, because he never took one off me. Leader agenda. What, my agenda? His agenda? Must be his, because it's the AI, right? Uneven peace deal, that seems obvious, you just take a city off of them. Endeavour with another leader. Is that an endeavour with Frederick or not? Started a trade route, makes sense. Revealed espionage, makes sense. Mutual trade, I guess if you're trading with two different people. Eliminated another civ. And weirdly enough, eliminating another civ seems to affect him, but doesn't seem to affect Benjamin Franklin. I really need this screen to be better detailed. Especially with sanctioning another civilization, that could be done with rewording. Who enacted what? I need to be able to hover over this and it just says, like, you know, this was Frederick did this, I did this kind of thing. Right now, this screen doesn't give me enough information. It just says our relationship's -90, and it's not explained at all. Some of it's obvious, like shared government, or the stuff that's usually like shared government, borders touching, stuff like that, obvious. But there's so many things here that it's like, well, why aren't they better explained? So that's already a problem in itself, is that, you know, the AI is like that. You also have the issue with the AI doing some crazy things, right? Benjamin Franklin started here. When we started the game, Benjamin Franklin's here. Here's Roma, his original capital. He expands down here. And then you can see that Ben Franklin then went and started there. I started here. And I spread down, and this is where Machiavellian started. But for some reason, Machiavellian actually put a city here, and it already had borders touching to Roma. So the AI is a bit crazy. They're actually the reason why Frederick's annoyed with me is mostly from his doing. I tend to play quite passive when I play Civilization, so I don't really want to get into fights. This is an exception, this game, because I was like, in the first era, all three of them wanted to have war with me, were all very unhappy with me. Partly their leader agenda and all that. So I decided, okay, right, we're going into the second era. I'm just going to wipe them out of this island. And I'm just going to take this island, and I'm going to have this island to myself, and be done with it, right? The AI is... This is on governor difficulty. This is the second... This is second from the bottom is the easiest difficulty. The AI is incredibly aggressive. Now, that might be the people I started on the island with: Machiavellian, Frederick, and Franklin. Let's have a look at Frederick's... let's have a look. Where is it? Likes the civilization with the greatest number of military units. Dislikes the one with the smallest number of military units. Well, I know I definitely have the most. Now, at this point, I've got a bigger army than they have. And then if we look at Ben's is really random, because double relationship gains with the leaders that share a government type with him, double the relationship losses with those that don't. So you have these massive booms and massive busts depending on if you're got the same government. It's very strange. But this, and we look at, let's even look at, like, me and Ben are helpful, okay? So previous age, we didn't go to war, but something happened, doesn't say what. Borders touching, that's him, not me. Started a trade route, yep. War against a mutual enemy, yep. From 15 from supporting a war. Who? I'm supporting a war, he's supporting war, is that what I've asked him? Military aid? Like, again, not explained. Mutual trade, dispersed a hostile independent near another leader, yeah, that's actually very well explained. Endeavour with another leader. What, I did something with somebody else, with him? Like, it's just infuriating that this stuff is not explained. And it feels like a lot of the time the AI is the one causing these issues. Anything that's in red, I mean, not necessarily the warring with Frederick, but like everything else that's in red, he pretty much is the problem for that. I do not have any control over that. So it does make, it's not, with Civ 6 and previous Civ games, you have the option to trade and do some of this stuff through much easier means. I might suggest to somebody, hey, I want an open trade route with them. We both put open borders on it, and it's all fine. With this, if I want open borders to, let's say, Benjamin's land, he then wants to walk through my lands, he then has to have open borders. If I ask him first and he says yes, and then he asks me and I say no, you run into a kind of a bit of a problem. I think if you're going to ask for open borders, I do wonder if this should just be for both people. It's things like that with a lot of the open markets and stuff like this. I see what they're trying to do with the game, and I don't dislike this screen. I think there are good ideas here. I just don't know if they're, one, explained as well as they could be, and I don't know if they're implemented as well as they could be. So that's kind of my problem with the AI with a lot of this stuff. Then I have an issue with human players, where human players aren't going to act the same way that the AI is. As in, a lot of this stuff... Let's go to Frederick. A lot of this stuff here would probably not be bothered. Like, if my borders are touching somebody else's land, why a human player probably isn't that bothered. Like, unless they're super aggressive. You know, they don't care if I've eliminated another civ, mutual trade, whatever. Like, we're going to look and try and play that works for our civs the best. You know, if I'm playing a very trade-centric civ, and I'm trying to trade with everybody, everyone gains out of that, right? They might say no, because I think, actually, no, they're going to get so much money they can buy their way to victory or whatever. But, like, you see the point. So there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't seem to work with human players. But, here's the thing. If I'm playing with my friends, and we happen to do some stuff, now I'm unfriendly with somebody, and not by pure passiveness, we've both been expanding or whatever, we are now unfriendly with each other. I can't do a lot of this stuff. If we become hostile with one another, the only thing I can do is reconciliation. I can't do any of this. Maybe I can ask for open borders, but a lot of this stuff gets blanked out. A lot of control is taken away from you when it's human to human, based on the way that the game works. And that is incredibly frustrating, because again, if, let's say, we take my city here, Lila Bella, and my, say somebody expands here like he has, well, that's fine, because I've got this big city. Alright, yeah, maybe I wanted the river, maybe I wanted this bit, but I'm not going to be too bothered by that. I've got this part of the river, I've got this thing, I can still get through there, I can ask for open borders, no problem. Now I've got someone to trade with. Like, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the game will make it out that it's a bad thing, and that's really annoying. Like, to me, the sort of things that I'm going to be looking at is, how is somebody's culture going? So if we look on the ribbons here, we can see that my science is okay, but Ben's is higher, and you can see my culture is the best, right? Or I might look at happiness, or I might look at how many settlements. Those are the things that I need to know. Like, oh, do I need to place sanctions on another player? So if that was the case, I might go down here and start stealing and spying. In which case, if they find out that I'm stealing and spying on them, then a lot of that, they can make those decisions of, okay, I don't want to give you open borders, I don't want to trade, I don't want all that stuff. But you don't get much of a choice, which then brings me on to one of my biggest issues with this. So, if I send... Let's say I want to send open markets, or probably a better example is that some civs can offer to do a culture or a science pact kind of thing. What that means is they say to you, hey, I want you to do this, like start this party with me, I'll get +4 culture, you'll get +2 culture if you accept it. Right, and that doesn't cost anything, you can just accept it. If you want to support it, like you'll see here, if we go down to open markets, it says, supported, both leaders receive 12 gold per turn, lasts for 15 turns in a relationship. If I want to support this thing that this player's offering to me, and it's like, oh, we both get +4 culture, it costs me more to activate it. And then, finally, if I want to turn that down, that also costs me influence. And the reason why I find this incredibly frustrating is that if somebody comes to me with open borders or trade relation, or like I know that they're a science civic, or I know that they're a culture civ, so maybe I don't want to agree to those pacts. If I don't have any influence, I have to accept it. And that doesn't sit well with me. Like, oh, I'm trying to play like a game, I don't want people to get into my lands, I'm trying to do something sneaky or whatever, and I don't have the influence because I've spent it on other things, and they're like, hey, I want open borders, and you can't turn them away. That feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth. Now, I understand that in Civ 6, when somebody comes to the trading table, you can always say no. There's no consequence to it. I'm absolutely fine with the fact that somebody comes to me and asks for open borders, and then I'm like, no, there is a consequence. But the consequence shouldn't be, I don't have the influence, so I have to accept any and all trade and things like that. That's a very bizarre decision to me. Like, if I say to Frederick now, right, so he's currently hostile. By the way, the reason when you want to be hostile is if you declare war, you essentially have a formal war. If you declare war when you're neutral, I think, or anything higher than that, you get surprise war and you get punished more for it. War's a whole other thing. But like, or if we go to Benjamin Franklin, right? So let's say and it's going to be hard because I can't really show this. Let's say I want open markets with him, right? I've currently got open borders. The other players' borders are open to you, and I've also got military aid. Gives a combat bonus to military accepted, blah, blah, blah. So let's say I'm like, hey, if I do open borders, I get money, he gets money. Let's see what happens. I accept that. So have open borders to do some minor trading with other civs. So this is how you basically get money between civs, right? I have no idea if he's accepted it. In the sense that I don't know if he's... it doesn't show. It doesn't actually say. So I don't know if he's supported it or just whatever. But he's gone, yeah, that's fine. So his choices were, yep, that's fine. I'll support it so I get the same amount of money, or no. Again, fine with the AI. Not so good with human players. And that is, it's a real problem. I feel like the core idea here of having this influence to... I think influence should be used to enact espionage. I think that a lot of this stuff should cost more to do it. I think espionage should be an expensive thing to do. And I think that if you get caught, you know, the other player gets a ton of influence or whatever. Also sanctions, I've never... The fact that I can do a sanction here, I have no idea, because no one's done it on me. I guess it does cost like a denounce. So if somebody tries to denounce you, either accept it or you cost, I think it's like 60 to 120 influence to say no, and it cancels those. But if I decide to go bang, 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 or like constantly fire these off at somebody, eventually they're going to have to say yes. And this reduces military production by 20% and then change the relationship. This reduces finances. This seems kind of crazy, you know? Let's see what happens. Let's do hinder finances so that they lose the gold per turn. So we regret that sanction. He just accepted it. Now, I don't know what his influence is at, because you never actually know the amount, to my knowledge. I know that he's making 17 a turn. So he's just accepted it. Like, we're at peace at the moment, but I'm probably going to go to war and finish that guy off. But you don't get much of a choice. And if you then do turn it down, you're also upsetting them because you turn them down. So we've got, like, I don't know if it'll have it on here. Sanctions, so it's just minus 60. I mean, like, our relationship is at the lowest it can go, I think. All in all, my feelings on this part of Civ, this diplomatic side, is this is very flawed. There is a good idea here that I think works well with AI, but you need to expand on these things and say, like, make it more clear as to what has actually happened. Like, declared war, easy. Sanction another civilization. It's like, is that minus 60 because they sanctioned me and I sanctioned them, or what? Like, I need more information on that. I need to know who did what and caused that thing to go up and down so I can look. You know, that would be massively helpful. Also, the AI just seems a bit crazy anyway, so they're the ones that usually cause a lot of it. But then, as a human player, human to human, I feel like I don't have that much control in terms of my diplomatic endeavors with them, like doing treaties and stuff like that. I feel like I'm hugely penalized if I don't have a stockpile of this, because now I just have to start accepting anything that comes my way, which I think is a really, personally, just not, I don't understand the game design logic behind that. Like, why am I being penalized for not having this? Like, I should be able to say no. Still have the penalty there, but I should be able to say no to any of this stuff, you know? Like, I don't like the fact, because, like, I'll let people, you know, I'm happy to have open borders, I'm happy to trade. Those things benefit both parties, you know? But, like, in its current format, I just think you don't have as much control of other players. You've got, obviously, the way that this stuff works with other players, which a lot of this is completely irrelevant to a human player. But that's what changes whoever they're playing's relationship. I could be having a great game with somebody, but we're both hostile the entire time because we settled near each other and we're doing different things and we don't like it. Yet the two human players are playing it are like, yeah, cool, we'll do that, we'll do that. Like, it's bizarre. It's so at odds with one another. Yeah. It's something that I would like to see changed or improved. It's definitely part of the game that I find the most frustrating. You know, there are other little bits like the warring and stuff like that, but that's, you know, that's just learning the game. But yeah, honestly, this stuff, I like the idea of accumulated influence. I like the fact it should be used for sanctions. It should be used for city-states. It should be used for spying. But anything else, I don't think if somebody comes to me with open borders, I don't have any of this, that I should just be able to be like, oh, okay then. Like, that feels weird and I don't like that. And it's not something I want to get used to, if I'm honest. Like, I can accept the game is different from the other Civ games, and that's fantastic. but there are some things like I don't want to feel like I've got less control over my own Civ, and there needs to be something put in place to make that have your penalty, but don't make it so that I can never turn it down. And I think that would go a long way to me being like, okay, this is in a better spot than it was at launch. Anyway, that's my rant and ramble for 20 minutes or so on the diplomatic part of Civ 7. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you do, hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.